How to do noise reduction in DaVinci Resolve 16 Studio. Okay, so let's get this guy going here. Oh yeah, it's much better. Okay, so you guys have all been there before. You've tried to cancel noise in Adobe or in Final Cut or whatever programs, and your image came out looking way too muddy when you tried to cancel that noise. That's always been my issue with noise cancellation for video, is you apply the effect and the image looks really watery, it looks really muddy. You don't retain a lot of the crispness that you did even when it was noisy. And so these are a lot of issues that I have with noise cancellation. However, in DaVinci Resolve 16 Studio, I've discovered this awesome way to cancel out noise to where you can still retain a lot of the crispness of the image. Let me explain exactly how I came to this. So you'll notice up here that there's a whole lot of noise right around here. But if you look down at the poster, you'll notice how there's a lot less noise down there. What we need to do is we need to separate our highlights and our darks and apply different amounts of noise reduction to each of them. Here are the different steps we will go through in this lesson. In step 1, we'll learn how to bring footage into Resolve. In step 2, we'll learn what nodes are and how we can use them to help us split the image. In step 3, we'll learn how to split the highlights and the darks using the color picker tool. In step 4, we'll apply different noise reduction levels to our highlights and our darks. And then in step 5, we'll export our footage. So one thing to keep in mind about this lesson is that it is not a super duper easy lesson in terms of it's really quick, you're gonna get in and out of this really fast. I am a big believer in doing things right and extremely good over doing things super duper quickly. And so just keep that in mind as you go through this tutorial. Again, I did put the links down below, so if you need to skip around, if you need to jump around, I will not be offended by any stretch of the imagination. Please use that to your advantage. Okay, so I'm in DaVinci Resolve here, and in DaVinci Resolve what we're going to do is we are going to right click and go to Import Media. Okay, so we'll go ahead and click on the clip that we want to bring in. And then we'll click Open. Okay, and then it brings in our clip into DaVinci Resolve. And you can see here I've already marked in and marked out a point that I want to put in my timeline. And so what I'll do next is I'll go ahead and drag and drop my clip into the timeline. And you can see here I already have a few other of the same clip in here. That's just because when I was preparing this tutorial, I did put in a few clips here just to kind of tinker around and make sure that I got it just right for you guys. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over to our color tab. So we're gonna click on our color tab. Okay, so right off the back, we've got our clip in here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna set it to loop as far as the playback goes. And then I'm gonna hit P to make it full screen. And then we'll hit spacebar to play it back. And again, we haven't applied any effects. We're just gonna take a look and see what we've got here. We've got a pretty noisy clip to begin with here. In this lesson, I'm gonna show you just a really basic concept for how they work. We're just gonna use them in sequence, not in tandem with each other to make it easier for you guys. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go up here and we're gonna click Add Node, Add Serial, and then Add Node and Add Serial again. Okay, so we have 3 nodes here. Okay, so the next thing we wanna do is we want to split our darks from our highlights. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna come over to our nodes, click on node number 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and come down to our color picker tool down here. It's also known as the qualifier. We'll click on that. Okay, now we're gonna select a dark part of our image. I'm gonna go ahead and select this corner up here. Okay, so right away you'll notice this node has changed. Now if I just want to exclusively see what this tool is taking out, we can hit Shift H. Okay, so from the looks of this, what we've done is we've said to DaVinci, we just want to select out these shades and apply effects to just these shades here, is what we're telling DaVinci. Now, you'll notice here how there's a lot of things that are selected. So let's go ahead and limit this a little bit more. So if I come down to my qualifier panel, what I can do is I can adjust the hue. Okay, so the hue's looking pretty good right off the back. I can adjust the saturation. Okay, so that brings in a little bit more. But we also bring in the faces a little bit more, so we don't necessarily want that. We can go ahead and move it probably around there, because we don't want to touch those highlights too much with this effect. And then we can adjust our luminance. So we want to make sure we're getting all of those darks, so we'll turn that all the way down, and then we can also turn it up. Okay, we got her feet in there, so let's go ahead and turn it back down. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Okay, so one thing you'll notice too about this clip, if I zoom in, you'll see how there are some features on their faces here that are selected here, and I don't want to select any part of the face. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a mask around those faces. And what's nice about DaVinci is that they have some really awesome mask features and tools built in. So what I'll do is I'll click on Window, I'll click on my circle mask, and let's go ahead and create a circle mask around them. Okay, so again, we're just keeping it pretty simple here. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to inverse that mask. Okay, so now we've taken that part out of the image. So they're not going to be affected by that heavy noise reduction we'll do there. Okay, the next thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and come over to our tracker, and let's go ahead and play it backwards, and this will track the motion. Okay, and let's go ahead and track forwards. Okay, so let's go ahead and adjust this just slightly. Let's play it again, so let's go backwards with it. Okay, and then let's go ahead and go forwards. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Okay, so let's come over to our temporal noise reduction. We'll set the frames to 3. The frames just represents how fast your computer will render it. Usually if it's faster, that means it's going to take less time, but it's not going to do like a super detailed job with it. But I found 3 works pretty well for the basic color correction. And then let's go ahead and go up to Luma and Chroma, and this will adjust the amount of temporal noise reduction here. So let's go ahead and adjust it to about 25. If I go higher than 25, that's when I really start to lose a lot of detail, but I can usually keep it at about 25 to begin with. Okay, so now that we've applied that, let's go ahead and take a look at our clip and see what we've got. So I'll hit P. Okay, so that took out some noise, especially in the highlights, so that's good. Okay, so now we're going to apply some heavy noise reduction to the darks in this image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on node 3, and let's go ahead and hit Shift H so we can see the whole image. And then what I'll do is I'll come back down to my temporal noise reduction, and this time I'm going to set it to 5. Now again, if you don't have a beefy computer that's fast, keep it at 3, but I'm going to keep mine at 5. And then for the Luma and the Chroma, I am going to turn it all the way up to 100. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to my spatial noise reduction, and I'll turn it up to 50. And then I'll keep the radius at large for this, and then I'll go ahead and keep the radius at large. Okay, wow, I can already see a pretty big difference here just from looking at this. So let's go ahead and play this back. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so that's looking a whole lot better than it did before. Here's a side-by-side comparison so you guys can see. Okay, so that looks really, really good. Now I'll teach you guys how to export it, and then we'll be done. Okay, so to export, what we'll do is we'll come over to our little rocket here, and then I'll go ahead and make sure I just have that clip selected. So what I'll do is I'll come up here, go ahead and title it. So we'll title this noise reduction. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and make sure, okay, QuickTime H.264 native. This all looks pretty good. Okay, and then I'll click Add to Render. And then you'll click Start Render. And there you have it. Thanks for watching this lesson. If this lesson was helpful for you, be sure to